Welcome to the Realty Plus Real Talk show, where we talk to industry experts to know their honest views and opinions and real facts and figures. And today we have with us Mr. Pankaj Gupta, Chief Business Officer, Godrej Housing Finance. Pankaj has more than 19 years of experience, of which 15 years has been in financial services industry, spanning leadership roles in large and diverse organizations across banks in both mortgage assets, unsecured assets, liabilities divisions, insurance, and non-banking financial services companies. So a very varied experience. Mr. Pankaj Gupta is here with us. Mr. Gupta, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sapna. Thank you so much for having me here. Glad to be here.
So, Mr. Gupta, it's great that you are here with us, especially in these times when we are seeing that, the housing finance loans are at their record low. There is a huge demand, the pent-up demand for housing. People who are the fence sitters are also looking at buying housing. But do you think, in your experience, a housing finance market is underserved? There's still a huge customer base that needs to be reached out to. What's your opinion on that?
So it's a huge market. Mortgage overall, housing finance in particular, if we talk about, housing is about 22 lakh crore market. So in overall market size, if we talk about, I think in India versus the global, benchmarking, in India, the mortgage penetration to GDP is very, very low. It's at about 10 to 11%, and we have a long way to go. I think we in the next 20 years also we can continue to see growth. I'm talking about rapid growth. So if you talk about Denmark or US, the developed countries, mortgage penetration is quite high. I mean, far higher than the developing countries. So it's as high as 70 to 80% in those countries.
Okay, so there is still huge demand, and there's a growth, for these financial services. There is a huge opportunity for growth. In fact, Godrej Finance recently, the Godrej Group forayed into financial services with Godrej Housing Finance. So, what are your aims? What are your strategies for the current scenario? How are you looking at it?
See, we very clearly we see the trust getting missed in the sector. Overall, I'm talking about non-bank and housing finance companies. So we see a lot of players exiting the market for last 24 to 36 months. At Godrej Group, we see huge opportunity for long-term business, right? So we see that housing finance per se, starting from this business, consumer looks at a lender or a financial institution which has long-term trust worthiness as an institution, because it's a loan of 20 years, it's a loan of 15 to 18 years, and you would not like to get associated with a financial institution where you do not trust. So we see there are very few players in the industry who are leading housing finance companies and non-bank. We see a lot of scope from a housing finance, premium housing finance company, I would use the word, right, where the customer segment is prime. Right now we are focusing on we want to tie up with large top developers where the consumer is having prudence and consumer also has got the high level of income, so that affordability does not remain a concern, and we want to be in that market.
Okay, so as you mentioned, that with the top developers in the premium segment, and obviously it comes with the name of Godrej, which has a trust factor among the consumers. So that looks good. Also, we mentioned about home loan interest rates being at record low. How do you see? And even RBI has maintained its repo rate, so that's also good news. How long do you see is home loan interest rates are going to stay low, and when the consumer should expect it to increase?
So very positively, I'm saying this. Consumers should enjoy this low rate regime and then buy homes and take loans at this rate. We do not foresee that in fact, this good momentum of lower pricing for consumers remain for very long. Having said that, these interest rate cycles are actually 2 quarters or 3 quarter cycles. These cycles do not turn around overnight from a 6.5-7% pricing to a 8% or 8.5 9% pricing. So the pricing tapers or hovers between high ranges within few quarters. So consumers have the time for next 2 to 3 quarters, especially financial year 22. If we talk about the first quarter, we see that 2 to 3 quarters, this rate will be in these ranges. So consumers can buy properties. This is the right time to buy. And after pandemic, the positivity is quite high in terms of consumer demand overall, because home ownership is becoming a positive, I would say, ambition for people saying we want to have home. Some of the customers and consumers, we hear them as we touch the ground. They want to upgrade to 3 BHKs or 4 BHKs. People want to have bigger houses because of work from home, and even the schools of kids are not operational. So the demand for a higher and bigger houses and demand for ownership overall is being clearly visible. This is also visible from inventories going down. If you look at real estate inventories data across top cities, the inventory is getting liquidated, right? We have not seen that trend for over last 8 to 9 years. From 2012-13, I have been observing that inventories were piling on. So there were huge inventories. Now those inventories and real estate developers are able to sell the properties, especially after COVID and pandemic.
Right. I think one of the biggest reason was also the stamp duty cut, which some states offered, and which prompted the buyers who were still in the waiting mode to buy. What other probably to boost demand again, as we said, loan interest rates are high. Demand among the buyers is there. What more incentives do you think government can bring into again bring the customers to the table?
See, frankly speaking, government incentives are already there. So if we look at PMAY, if you look at government's focus, the focus is very high on all these, initiatives. So a consumer, which is a first-time home buyer, can look at all the incentives of government, and in fact, the rate of interest adding on to it, this affordability of loan becomes already quite cheaper. Right. So affordability is there, pricing is low, government incentives are already there, PMAY is there. This is Prime Minister, scheme, which is already applicable, and people are making benefit out of this scheme to a greater extent. So I foresee, with all these low interest rates, affordability of projects, and developers are also, now making customer-centric homes, basis demand of customers. So when consumer demand is met, I think that is a positive sign overall for a consumer from an end consumer perspective.
Okay, so all in all, good time to buy, as Mr. Pankaj Gupta says, this is the right time to buy. You have the incentives, you have customer-centric projects, and you have the low interest rates. So, this is the right time to buy. Another one big, transformation or the development that we saw during COVID was the digitization, especially in real estate sector, which is considered to be one of the most traditional businesses, the way we work. Whether it is developers, whether it is consumers, even, everyone was buying online, testing online. How the housing finance business, and particularly with Godrej Housing Finance, how are you capitalizing on the technologies, and what has been the customers' approach?
So very honestly speaking, when we charted out our journey a couple of years back, when we decided that we want to be in housing finance segment, actually, we really went deep in understanding customers, in understanding developers, both. So when we see customer landscape, consumer landscape, which is a end home buyer and a property buyer, we spoke to many customers. We spoke to nothing less than 150 to 200 customers. And we try to understand that what do really they need. Now, the second piece is we are the latest entrant in the market. So latest means the last entrant, actually, you can say, in housing finance industry. So we thought that how do we behave like, legacy of Godrej of 124 years and behavior of a startup, agile company, which is based on technology. So we built our entire framework on consumer need, which is, we call that customer obsession. So consumers told us that they need certain products, which are like, predictable loans. The biggest challenge is, customer wants a loan. They want to have predictability in an under construction loan. So the building is getting ready. The ground floor is becoming 35 crore building. And then every time the floor goes up, the construction stage moves up, the consumer pocket hits, because the payment of that construction on an under construction loan is being done by customer at the end of the day through loan. Now, if the loan disbursal goes high, the interest payment in the pre-EMI period goes up. But customer's salary does not change within a year. The salary changes every year. So we created Design Your EMI framework, the product. So Design Your EMI framework is an innovative product of Godrej Housing, which is taking a very, very popular stance across the segments, developers and consumers, that customer can choose the EMI. So if a customer is paying rent and customer still wants to have an ownership, so customer can play between the two. So if my salary is say 1 lakh and I want to buy a home and I am also giving rent, so I can adjust my EMI. So we can give you that architecture that you choose the EMI, what you want to pay. So that became a very popular product in India today, Design Your EMI. We are very happy about that. The second thing which we did is that why should customer walk out of their home? And I'm talking about pre-COVID. I'm not talking about post-COVID. Post-COVID, it became a mandate kind of stuff that you need to do digital. But pre-COVID, we decided that our customer should not come out of house, which means if customer is staying at his home, one of the largest players call customers to their offices for signature and all that. We heard customers, and customers shared with us that if you want to take loan, why should husband and wife take a leave from office and go and sign a paper to get a loan when both are working with large MNCs, husband and wife both. I'm talking about the new age buyers. So we understood their need. We created a digital platform. We said everybody talks about logins and sanctions online. We today do end-to-end disbursals online. Very happy to share with you, 90% of our customers take loans online. I'm talking about the digital journey, where customers are assisted by sales managers. Sales managers upload their papers and then they give them sanctions, which is followed by digital disbursals. Customer can be at home. Both husband and wife can be at their places, and then still places means the workplace, and then still can take the loan. No need to take holiday and then go to a housing finance company or a bank for getting disbursal done. It's a big achievement from Godrej Housing Finance, and it is also helping developers big time, because developer want minimal kind of zero touch loans. It's basis their own requirements and FGDs and focus group discussions we had with developers. They said, can we have loans which are touch free? So we have created zero touch loans framework enabled by our great IT platform, is what I can say.
Okay, that's fantastic. So touchless, contactless, the convenience, as you rightly mentioned, the biggest challenges for the consumer was, get the entire hassle of the procedure of KYC, underwriting, and then, the signatures of documents. Now, if it can be, happen online, that's the best convenience housing finance company can provide to the potential customers. Do you also kind of educate the first time buyers, because this is their first time they are going through this entire process? So as a finance company, are you educating them? As you mentioned that you are already tying up with developers. So do they come, what is the customer response? Do they come to you, is this a project we should buy? I'm sure they have a lot of queries.
So customers come to us, frankly speaking, the consumers give us opportunity when they decide to buy the house. Right. But we created our network in a manner that we, understand need of the customer with a collaborative approach of developers buy-in in there, which means if we are sitting at a developer's project, the first and the foremost target of Godrej Housing Finance is to augment the buy of home. Because the moment home is bought by a customer and sold by a developer, the loan comes in picture. Now, we also see, a lot of times a consumer comes to a developer shop and says, okay, I want to buy the property, but let me check with my banker or finance company or housing finance company, and let me come with a sanction letter. Now, next time, out of 100 customers walk in to buy property, maybe, 7, 8 or 10 can buy property with their own predictability. With our instant sanction journey and digital sanctions available at the counter of developer, we have seen that the customer who is sitting at the project and seeing the project and finalizing the project, they get sanction letter there within 5 to 7 minutes. I would not say 2-3 minutes, but it takes about 5 to 7 minutes or maybe 8 minutes. Within those 8 minutes and the interaction between area manager, which is our sales engine, and customer and developer jointly, we are able to give that 1 crore sanction to a customer who is really worth of that. And then what happens is consumer's confidence goes up. Consumer says that, boss, I got sanction from a Godrej Housing Finance. Now I can buy this property of 1.2 crores. The conversion ratios of developers is going up, which is the reason why we are getting success in all the large markets we are. So today we are getting good business from the market with good quality of customer, and we are very happy about that.
8 minutes sounds like music to our ears. So, but how are you mitigating the risks? How are you taking care of those?
So very interesting fact of lending business is that there are set of customers who behave well and set of customers who do not behave well, right? So we have applied analytics. We have applied a lot of scorecard models behind the risk engines. We have got a model called trust and verify. We trust what customer says and we verify that. Okay. Because even if you give the sanction letter, and if customer has defaulted somewhere else, our scorecards will tell us the disbursal is going to happen in some time. The disbursal is dependent upon registered agreement between developer and the customer. And that takes some time. In the process, in the hindsight, we verify all the documentation given by the customer. That takes care of the risk of that customer. But we have chosen very carefully customer segment, right? So the risk of business lies in the customer segmentation. So if the customer segmentation is masses or below mass, which is an average income of maybe 50,000 a year, then the risk is very high, affordable customer. But when you choose to deal with a customer which is a premium customer of the market, a customer with a 1 lakh salary and spouse earning 1 lakh, which means 2 lakh per month income, 24 lakh per annum income, that's the customer segment we are in. Then the risk of default is very low because the respect level of that family which is buying home and the segmentation of that customer is premium segmentation. So we are taking care of that risk with technology, with a trust and verify model that we trust customers, but we verify. We are not just going to give loans basis only what statements are made. We are going to verify everything.
Okay, very important, the market segmentation that you mentioned, that the kind of market that you are catering to and all the checks and balances with enabled by technology. So that's one big factor that you are Godrej Housing Finance is incorporating in its strategies. Now, talking about developers, do you also have any kind of services or products designed for developers in terms of construction loans or something, or are you going to come up with them?
Yeah, we have. See, in today's time, any organization which wants to be successful and have a long-term vision, you need to be flexible. And our purpose of the company, which we have made from the day one, as we constituted the organization and its strategy for next 5 to 8 years, the purpose of the company is fair, fast, and flexible. Now, fair comes with our Godrej brand, that we are fair company. We are not going to do anything wrong with consumers because consumers trust our brand for so many years now. We are fast. Fast means we do in minutes and hours. The service orientation is like that, and we are flexible too. Now, flexibility comes with products, comes with the tie-up with developers. So we create customized schemes with developers to make sure that the project in the micro market, for example, in Kharadi, Pune, or in NCR Noida, or even in Mumbai, if it is Kalyan or a Thane project. So Thane project and a Vikhroli project, both are different. So if Vikhroli project, product price is 3 crores or 5 crores, and Thane project price is 60 lakh. So the scheme going to change because somewhere you need design your EMI, somewhere you need design your plan. So design your EMI is for consumer, design your plan is for developer. So we create plans for developers. So we are trying to cater to developers, customers, and we have a long-term vision. We are not a company which will be here in the market for 6 months and then another 6 months. We are not there for business. we have long-term orientation of building the business for the company.
Okay, fantastic. In terms of geographical expansion, are you looking at other cities apart from where Godrej Finance is present right now?
Uh, I'll give you a very deep, meaning answer basis my experience of last 20 odd years is that Indian mortgage market is largely in the top 20 cities of India, right? So Indian housing finance market in specific, if we talk about the 80% market lies in the top 20% kind of cities. I'm talking about the top 20 cities of India, starting from Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, and then the large major metros versus tier 2 towns, the large ones. We first want to establish ourselves in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, and Ahmedabad. Once we establish ourselves, once we have a meaningful size, the next level of growth will come from the remaining locations, which are top locations. Right now, we don't have a plan to extend it to very deep geographic, but we want to build a meaningful business franchise which is replicable across the country at various stages. Not now.
Okay, so first build the strong foundation, then expand the branches across. So that looks like a good strategy. Instead of spreading yourself in the starting years, and then coming up with the challenges and solutions. You gave us good idea about the kind of unique projects and the unique products that you have come up with, both for the consumer as well as the developers, the industry. But there is, in this segment, there is a lot of competition as well. There are, as you mentioned, very well-established players as well, and then the banking sector is there. How does Godrej Finance, maybe one or two, you would like to give us points that makes Godrej Housing Finance, stand apart from the competition?
So very clearly, there are housing finance companies in India for more than few decades without even naming anyone. We can, safely assume. But when I look at as a consumer, I'm not talking about as a company today, right now. I'm talking about as a consumer. If I have to take a home loan, where do I go? So the top 5 banks have the 15% market share. And I'm talking about private sector banks. Top 5 public sector banks have 35% market share. Now, you can very well imagine that the service level of the overall ecosystem, if 35% market share of entire mortgage is with 5 public sector banks, the service level of Godrej will become a great difference in the service overall ecosystem, which means we have technology first approach. Tech first means digital company we are. Our pricing is competitive. We understand need of consumer. We craft products basis consumer need. Giving you another example of EMI break product, we say that in March month, salaried customers do not get their salaries because of income tax being paid in March more than what it was supposed to. Provisional declarations and actual is always, imbalance at every salaried customer's end. So March salaries are low. We do not apply EMIs in March. Our EMI break product is like that. So we have applied common sense in creating products. All these products are based on common sense and customer need. Now, when you be very, very flexible company from a perspective of, consumer need, and you are fast, being your purpose also driven company you are. So common sense, purpose driven, and fast, highly competitive. The last and the most important thing is at Godrej Group, talent is supreme. So we do not compromise with people quality. And I believe that home finance or any product, before selling the product, you actually sell the person. Actually, the relationship is, led by the sales manager or either ways. So if the quality of team is very high and the culture of the company is very strong, which is value driven, at Godrej, we show respect. We have trust as our core value. We also have, the model of customer obsession entirely in the company. And the quality of talent leads everything. So the culture becomes like world-class company. Without getting into that global names, we are not less than any global company today. We are the best company in India today from technology, talent, strategy standpoint. And this is not what we only say. Our customer NPS score talks about that. So that's the overall one.
Okay, so tech first, consumer first, and the quality, the team, the culture of the company. So all these are some of the unique points of this company which makes it stand apart. So fantastic. But before we let go of you, Mr. Gupta, uh, three probably advice for our young homeowners who are looking at first time buying homes. So what would be your three top tips to these young homeowners?
See, top three is it's very simple for them. First of all, they should buy home. They should not think twice. Buying home is a wise decision, especially the cycle is visibly turning positive, the overall cycle. So the investment today will yield much more results tomorrow. I mean, the investment at this point in time, we foresee that real estate will yield much better, I would say, returns on investment. Second, COVID has taught us that home buying versus rent. Home buying is always helpful. The third thing is look at the pocket, right? And never go out of pocket, which means if the affordability is, say, of certain value, say if you can afford a 60 lakh house, uh, stay within that 16 lakh house limit, and then maintain your expenses so that you have emergency funds and you have your finance well managed. That's it. So I think
Okay.
these three things: right time to buy, okay, and overall investment for long term will help you. The model of home buying and within affordability will always, support customers to pay EMIs on time, because there will always be a surplus in the next few months, quarters, and years. And then prudence versus uh, track record of buying homes can always be there.
Right. So what Mr. Pankaj Gupta is saying, it's not only a emotionally wise decision buying a home, but also financially wise decision to buy a home. It's a good investment, makes good financial sense, and also good financial planning. What the home buyer should look at before, looking at buying a home. Their budgets they should, freeze how what they can spend and not get into any kind of a financial problem or a mess later on. So thank you so much, Mr. Pankaj Gupta, for sharing those, detailed views not only about the industry, but also what Godrej Finance plans to do and what are the steps that you're already taking in terms of making the consumer journey easier to buy a home. So thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your views and opinions and sharing your time.
Thank you so much, Sapna. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta.